Great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering, attain bliss, and birth and death, and quickly rise from birth. Thân đại đức cảm tình, vì đức Pháp hội cấp nhất thiết chúng sanh, tịnh kiến diệu Pháp luân giao đạo ngã môn, như há liêu sanh thoát từ ly khổ đà lạc, pháp chứng vô sanh. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo Sadanto Suche Doye Alahadi San Miao San Puto Xie. Namo Takdaka Toya Daya Alaha De Tamil Tambo Da Toa. The unsurpassed, profound, subtle and wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million aeons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and maintain it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom thus come one true and actual meaning. Wu shang sheng she wei miao fa bai jie wan jie nan zao yu wo jin jie wen de shou qu yan jie ru lai zhen shi. All Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Sixth Patriarch, Venerable Shenhua, Shamini, all good advisors and Mitofo. 诸佛菩萨六祖师父上人下面你各位上知识阿弥陀佛. Chư Phật Bồ Tát, kính thưa Lục Tổ, Hòa Thượng Tiên Hóa, Sư Cô và quý vị thiện tri thức A Di Đà Phật. Today is the 19th of 2012, August, month of August. We are here in Rosemead, California, to discuss the Vajra Sutra. We're on slide 274. Indeed, it's very auspicious that we are able to get together and discuss one of the major milestone in the investigation of Buddhism. This is the Vajra Sutra, where we are sharing in English our understanding of a state of wisdom that is very particular to Buddhism only. Only Buddhism can bring us to this level of wisdom, this level of understanding that hasn't been explained in this kind of detail before. Oh, by the way, today is very hot, and our Buddha hall has no insulation. So it's very hot in the summer and very cold in the winter, kind of extremes. So can we get maybe another fan up here, another fan or something here so that people can be more comfortable before they pass out from the heat? It's no need to be this extreme, okay? I realize it's a little bit extreme, but because of the important concepts that being discussed, I want to take extra measures to not discourage you from coming, because it will be hot the next couple of weeks. um, so anyway, the concept of arhatship is a very, very important concept. We started talking about the arhats is a level of wisdom that is beyond the non-Buddhist comprehension. For the last few weeks, we've been explaining about the first 3 stages of arhatship. First stage arhat, second stage arhat, and third stage arhat. Okay? This is what has not been explained in English yet. And so we chose to explain this concept of arhatship in English in order, thank you, to document and add to the understanding of concrete understanding of Buddhism. Buddhism is very practical. Okay, it seeks to be useful for you, meaning that it has to be the Buddhist concept is a concept that stresses practicality, something you can use in your life. Okay, and therefore this concept of hardship is very important. You can add it here. You can put it up here. Thank you. Because it helps us understand the nature of the confusion we experience. So when we talk about, in Buddhism, when we talk about wisdom, it is the ability to see clearly so that we are not confused by exterior things, by external things. Dạng về cái quan niệm của A-la-hán. A-la-hán là quan niệm rất là quan trọng. Lần đầu tiên mà chúng ta có thể có cơ hội gặp với nhau để mà giảng tường tận những cái quan niệm về cái A-la-hán. Đó là cái sở trường của Phật giáo. Phật giáo, tu theo Phật giáo mới đắc được tới cái trình độ trí huệ của A-la-hán, sơ quả, nhị quả, tam quả. Mấy tuần vừa rồi đang giảng về mấy cái quả trước, bây giờ đang giảng cái tứ quả. Alright. So the first 3 stages of arhatship are very, very special in that they are considered to be transcendental wisdom or transcendental knowledge. Thì 3 cái quả đầu tiên A-la-hán được gọi là xuất thế, tại vì họ bắt đầu tránh được những cái mê hoặc của người thế gian. Transcendental wisdom means that they know things that us common mortals can't know, don't know ourselves. Okay, they have special knowledge that escapes, that's beyond the reach of common mortals like us. Okay, that's why it's called transcendental, because it elevates them above the typical understanding of what is considered in Buddhism ordinary people. Okay, that includes all the people who practice in all the faiths are considered ordinary people because they don't know how to recognize the suffering that's persistent, that's present in our world. Okay, so they're confused by the what is called in Buddhism the marks, external things, confuse them, and they cannot see through these confusions. That's why it's not until you reach your first stage arhatship then you begin to see through these confusions, or see through the fog, if you will. Okay, and that's why it's called transcendental wisdom. Okay, for you, some of you are new. Let me translate the Vietnamese first. Cái này là nói tóm tắt lại mấy cái tuần vừa rồi. Sơ là nói về Sơ quả A-la-hán, mấy cái vị A-la-hán là mấy cái vị có trí huệ xuất thế, tại vì họ tránh được cái sự mê hoặc mà người phàm phu như chúng ta bị. Thì những cái phương pháp môn khác, tu hành khác, tôn giáo khác chỉ đắc tới không thể nào thoát được cái thế tục này. Thành ra vẫn gọi là còn gọi là phàm phu. Chỉ người A-la-hán sơ quả trở lên mới được gọi là có cái trí huệ xuất thế, tại họ có những cái biết, có những cái nhìn rõ ràng hơn người phàm phu chúng ta. Okay. Ví dụ người sơ quả A-la-hán không bị mấy cái lục trần nó làm họ mê hoặc nữa. Âm thanh không làm họ mê hoặc, cái hình tướng không làm họ mê hoặc, thành gọi là lục trần. So for example, the first stage Arhat, the very first level of significant wisdom, transcendental wisdom, is that of first stage Arhat. He or she is no longer confused by the sixth dusts. The six dusts are the sound, the form, okay? The sound, meaning that when this first stage Arhat hears praises, he's not turned on by it. Or when she hears criticism, she's not unhappy. So like she's unmoved, unperturbed by the six dusts. Okay? For example, he sees a beautiful woman. He's not affected, terribly disturbed by it. And now Peter is laughing. Or a handsome man, for that matter. You women are not spared from this, okay? So it works both ways. I mean, họ không bị cái sắc, hình tướng đẹp làm họ dao động cái tâm thần. Okay. That's the first stage Arhat, meaning that all the six sense organs cannot disturb them anymore. Whatever they receive cannot affect them. Therefore, they maintain clarity of mind. They're not influenced by external things, by the six dusts. Is it clear? That is considered transcendental wisdom in Buddhism. Okay, that's for real. Okay, that helps you maintain clarity of mind, by the way. Alright? Thành ra chẳng hạn như ngài sơ quả như vậy thì không bị cái lục trần nữa, họ chi phối các ngài, thành các ngài có sự cái sáng suốt của tinh thần, okay, không bị ảnh hưởng bởi cái ngoại cảnh. Is it clear? We see why in Buddhism it's very clear. These concepts are very, very important. Not until you are no longer affected by the external world are you considered to have some kind of special wisdom or knowledge. Okay? You yourself know. Okay? So these measures are very, very, very precise. Is it clear? Okay. And then the second stage, Arhat, is a state of being where they give rise to one false thought and then they stop. They don't follow it. Okay. Cái nhị quả là họ sinh một cái vọng tưởng, sao họ có thể ngừng lại, họ cũng theo vọng tưởng. Okay? This is incredible. Think about it. We, ordinary people, we have one false thought arises in our brains. What do? We immediately grasp it and think about it and give rise to more subsequent thoughts. The second stage Arhat is so wise that as soon as one thought arises, he says, stop. I stop. It stops right here. Okay? No more confusion arises. So he recognizes, he's so sensitive. He recognizes that arisal of the first false thought. And he says, no more. Because the subsequent thoughts, going after subsequent thoughts is a form of confusion. Okay? So far so good. Thành cái ngài nhị quả A-la-hán sao? Ngài thấy một cái vọng tưởng nó khởi lên. Thì ngài có thể nói ngừng lại. Không thể khởi cái vọng tưởng thứ nhì. Có nghĩa là không có chạy theo cái vọng tưởng. Có nghĩa là cái ngoại cảnh, cái tư tưởng ở trong đó, nó không thể nào làm xúc động ngài. Okay?
In other words, you see, the first stage arhat is no longer affected by the external environment. Is it clear? Is it clear for all of you? Okay? This is, the non-Buddhists don't explain this very well because they don't understand the nature of confusion, our confusion. So they can't put it in very precise terms. The Buddha is very wise. He says, the nature of our confusion is first because we are affected by the external environment, by the outside world. So the Buddha says, you have to cultivate into the stage where it's called transcendental wisdom, where it says, you no longer are affected by external things. Okay? That's first stage arhatship. Is it clear? Okay? Thành Đức Phật là người có trí huệ dễ sợ. Ngài giảng nói là cái người phàm phu là bị cái ngoại cảnh nó chi phối. Thành là chỉ có khi nào mà tới một cái cảnh giới mà không bị ngoại cảnh chi phối nữa mới gọi là có trí huệ chân chính. Okay? Thì cái trình độ đó là trình độ của sơ quả A-la-hán. Is it clear? Now, the second stage arhat is what? He's not affected by his own internal confusion. Isn't it beautiful? Cái người nhị quả A-la-hán á, thì nó hơn một trình độ nữa là mặc dù là không bị cái vọng tưởng của cái trong cái tâm thần mình á, nó làm chi phối. Tức là không bị ở trong nó chi phối nữa. That's one layer inside now. You're going in. It says, I'm not affected by my own thoughts. Because as we all know, thoughts arise in us constantly without us doing anything about it. And yet, this second stage arhat says, stop. No more. No second thoughts. Is it clear? He has that ability. Thành cái người nhị quả A-la-hán rất đặc biệt. Là quý vị biết cũng người thường phàm phu chúng ta là bị cái tư tưởng nó khởi lên đều mà không có cách nào mà điều khiển nó được. Còn người nhị quả A-la-hán thì ngài có thể nói cái vòng tưởng đầu tiên nó khởi lên thì ngài có thể ngừng lại, không cho cái vòng tưởng nhị nó khởi lên được. Is it clear? Okay? And the third stage arhat is is a guy who's no longer confused by have any confusion in the desire realm. Cái người tam quả A-la-hán thì người không còn bị cái dục giới, những cái cảnh giới của dục giới nó làm mê hoặc nữa. In particular, he has put an end to feelings in the desire realm. Nhất là ngài đã chấm dứt được, đã đoạn được những cái cảm thọ của trong cái dục giới. Okay? Any questions so far? Yes.
Could you correlate that to the ending of the particular skandhas? Does that correlate?
Yes. Very good. I will, okay, for this particular lecture, I will explain to you the principles, okay, so that people understand the principles behind the Buddhist teaching. But in terms of cultivation, it's very individual. We don't explain it. I don't explain it to you in public like this. Okay, I will explain it to individuals when they reach there, because it's not meant to be public knowledge. It's meant for the kind of knowledge here. There's two sides of knowledge. One for general knowledge, and one for problem solving. Okay? So your question pertains beyond the public knowledge. It's about problem solving. And when people get there, when they come to me, I will explain to them, okay, in greater details. For two reasons. Number one is because this is to avoid people who are bookworms. Okay? And they read everything, and they think they know everything. And they don't understand that Buddhism, real knowledge in Buddhism is about something called your experience with your mind and your body. It's not about the intellect anymore.
you have this aha moment. You say, that's what it means. And that moment where you really grasp it without thinking, that's what Buddhism is about. We help you develop it. It's not meant for you to read it and then say, I know about this, and I describe it to you. See, the second reason is that we don't say it, that along the same line, we don't spell it out. A lot of information is because to prevent from the phony teachers from impressing students. Okay? I throughout my cultivation, I've run into so many teachers who read books and who recited books from memory, could recite books from memory, and would quote all these things. What they don't realize is all these principles, okay, are simply, if one teacher explained the principle in one book, and you copy it, and you take the principles explained by another teacher from another book, you put them together, they don't match. And that's why these people, when they read a lot of books, and they try to quote many books, they don't know what they're talking about. So it's very clear to us when you listen, these people say, that's a phony. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And let me tell you, apply to people like me as well. Because I've listened to many people, many monks who explain, and they said, I can tell you about the state of an 8th ground bodhisattva or 4th stage arhat and all those things. And they said, I quote these sutras and sastras, all these books from these big shots. And they don't know what they're talking about because when you put different authors together, they don't quite match. There's a disconnect somewhere unless you understand the unexplained part. You cannot put them together. Okay? So the second part is about problem resolution, meaning that when you're there, okay, then that special knowledge is about helping you overcome your problems so that you can open your wisdom. That's called that problem resolution skills that is only applicable to the person at that moment only. It's not meant for you, for me, to know as to discuss over tea or coffee or over lunch. Okay? It's very specialized knowledge. We put it as, for example, secrets, if you will. For example, like you cook. You know that after all these years of practice and you become a great chef, you know a lot of things you cannot explain, everything on books. You can write a recipe book, but there's so many more things you cannot explain. It's only when the students come to you and say, Master, I have this problem. How do I fix this? Okay? That's when the great chef says, it's easy. Let's just do it like this. Okay? So, like everything else, you need to have both the general knowledge, the principles, which is important. Okay? And that's what we spend time explaining to you, the principles behind this. But then there's a section where it's specialized knowledge to solve the problem associated with these different states. That's why we don't explain it in public. At least I don't explain it in public. Okay? So when you get there, I explain it to you. That's a long answer to the question. Okay. Câu hỏi là cái sơ quả La Hán có liên quan tới cái ngũ ấm. Thì tôi nói câu hỏi đúng. Để tôi nói rõ ràng, khi mà giảng kinh Phật pháp, nó có cái đặc biệt như vậy. Phật pháp nó giảng hai phần. Một cái phần là cái nghĩa lý, những cái định nghĩa, những cái hiểu biết mà về cái lý. Ok. Còn cái đó là giảng được. Còn cái phần sự, có nghĩa là quý vị phải tu tới cái cảnh giới đó rồi đó. Thì cái phần sự là cái phần mà người thầy không có giảng xuống trong sách, mà sẽ giúp quý vị giải quyết những cái vấn đề khi mà quý vị tới cái cảnh giới đó. Thành cái phần sự ít khi mà giảng ra. Đó là những cái bí mật mà quý vị biết không? Cái người tu hành, người thầy, tiền tri thức người ta biết được. Tại sao như vậy? Tại vì các cổ nhân người ta cố ý ta làm như vậy. Tại vì họ không muốn những cái người mọt sách, rất nhiều người là mọt sách, họ đọc rất nhiều sách, Họ đọc sách tới đây, người thầy này, tới ông tổ nọ, tới ông tổ kia, xong họ gom lại, họ giảng, họ nói, tôi nghiên cứu sách là 20 năm rồi. Okay? And for example, for this particular sutra, there is a lay person who investigated sutra for 22 years. He listened to all the major masters, the enlightened masters himself. So he listened to them all after 22 years. And he says, I heard everything there is to hear about this Vajra Sutra. Okay, I heard all the great masters. He's very, very dedicated. So he says, this is one of the most important sutras in Buddhism, by the way. It is a fact. And therefore he invested his time, his lifetime, studying the sutra and going to places to listen to the masters. And the great masters explained it. After 22 years, he says, I know everything there's to know about the sutra. There's no one else who knows it better than me because I listen to everyone else. So he started writing a sutra, this thick book, which on the Vajra Sutra by saying, this is what I heard from everyone. And he started criticizing. I said, this master is right, the other master is not quite right, and so on and so on. So I too, 17 years ago, I was looking for a book on the Vajra Sutra. A librarian, a Chinese librarian, gave me the book. He says, this is the Bible on the Vajra Sutra. You better investigate it. It's nothing else better than this. So I said, thank you very much. Okay. So I brought it back. I said, I'm so lucky. I'm gonna wait until I'm ready because this is my Bible. Okay. This is the ultimate knowledge for me. So after 10 years later, I was ready. I was ready to read it. I read it and I ran to section where the man says, this great master is wrong and he doesn't, I disagree with him. And I looked at that and I said, no, this guy may have heard everything, but he still doesn't get the principles behind the Vajra Sutra. Just because you repeat what the great masters say doesn't mean you penetrated the meaning. That's a part about we are known in the Western world as the aha moment. You listen to sutras, by the way, folks. You listen to the principles. That's only the first phase. Second phase is that you have these aha moments. That's when you truly understand. Until you learn something, you first have to learn about the principles. But until, in Buddhism, as far as Buddhism is concerned, until you have this aha moment, it doesn't count yet as true wisdom. Okay? Là thầy có cuốn sách là Chăn Quỷ Nụ, Giang Vi Đông gì đó. Ông đó, ông nghiên cứu cuộc đời, ông nghiên cứu. Tại vì cái kinh Kim Cang là một cái đài kinh của bên Phật giáo Đại thừa. Rồi ông bỏ thì giờ ông nghiên cứu sách vở, xong rồi ông đi nghe những cái vị đại tăng đó, mà rất nhiều người là Bồ Tát đã giác ngộ rồi, giảng những cái kinh này. Tại ông rất là hãnh diện, ông nói sau 22 năm ông nghiên cứu cái kinh này rồi. Tại vì cái thời kỳ Bát Nhã Đức Phật của cái kinh này là Đức Phật bỏ 22 năm giảng cái thời kỳ những cái giáo lý đó. Thì ông bỏ 22 năm ông nghiên cứu một cái bộ kinh này thôi. Rồi sau 22 năm ông nói là tôi hiểu cái kinh này rồi. Thì ông bắt đầu ông gom lại, ông giảng kinh đó. Thì ông nói là cái vị đại sư nào nó đúng, vị đại sư nó sai, phần này đúng, phần kia sai. Thì thầy đọc cái cuốn sách này, thầy tôn sùng cuốn kinh ông đã giảng như sợ. Và sau này mới thấy đó, là ông lầm, tại ông vẫn chưa hiểu như thế. Tại sao như vậy? Tại muốn hiểu cái Phật pháp là hiểu đầu tiên phải hiểu cái giáo lý cái đã, phải nghe cái giáo lý đó. Xong cái phần thứ nhì rất quan trọng là khi về bỗng nhiên ngồi thiền đó niệm Phật bỗng nhiên bỗng nhiên mình tỉ hồi được, mình thể hồi được cái giáo lý đó, không còn suy nghĩ nữa. Thì lúc đó mới thực sự hiểu Phật pháp. Lúc đó mới nói là tôi hiểu được. Còn khi mà nói mà quý vị ngồi mà nghe thôi đó, nghe nó là cái luật nhân quả là này nọ, cái chân không là gì, diệu hữu là cái gì, đó chỉ cái đó vẫn còn dùng cái trí thức. Còn cái lúc mà quý vị thể hồi được bỗng nhiên nó trong óc mình nó có một cái hiểu biết nó đặc biệt mà không cần suy nghĩ. Let me distinguish the two for your sake. Your book knowledge, bookworm knowledge, is based on conscious thinking. Is it clear? You're still thinking. You read, and you say like, Like Thomas, when he responded to my question this morning, he said, I think this is what you mean. When you say he starts thinking, that's when he's wrong immediately. Okay? That book knowledge is based on conscious thinking. You read it and you process it. You say, this is consistent with the books I read before. Like that man who listened for 22 years to all these explanations. It's still conscious thinking. Okay? So far so good. Still reasoning. Whereas the aha moment is actually there's a mental connection in your brains, by the way. Physically, there's a new connection in your brains that enables you to understand without thinking. Becomes your second nature. You don't think about it anymore. You just know. For example, you just know that someone likes you. Someone is attracted to you. Am I correct? You ladies are very good at that, right? You know someone is attracted to you, right? They glance at you. I think he likes me. You have those aha moments, don't you? Yeah? A lot, right? Us too, by the way. Roberta! Where have you been? My goodness. You hang out with the wrong crowd. Yeah, you hang out with the wrong crowd. Thành ra cái lúc mà thể hội được cái óc mình nó có một cái mới, thành ra mình không cần suy nghĩ mà bởi vì mình biết được. Dạng như mình cái linh tính mình, cái biết nó từ cái linh tính của mình. Okay? All right. And then the fourth stage aha is this person here. We started talking about it last week. The fourth stage aha is the highest level of ahatship. It's very special kind of understanding where this person here is recognized throughout the universe. Trust me, folks. This fourth stage ahat, people know about them. They're so famous because they are considered to be a superior being. Okay? Not to you, not by you, because you guys are confused. Okay? But for the people who are not confused, they look at this fourth stage ahat and say, wow, he's something else. He is a very special individual. And he's supposed to be revered. That's why he's worthy to receive offerings. These people are telling each other, you tell them to go make offering to the fourth stage ahat. That's why it's called worthy offering. Is it clear? Because they tell each other, they say, hey son, you go and offer to him. Okay? You tell your wife, hey, it's a fourth stage ahat. Go off, make an offering to him. Okay? That's why he's worthy offering. Killer of thieves, because this person here puts an end to all his affliction. Without birth, meaning he can live forever. Okay? That's what we started talking about. The fourth stage ahat is very, very special. It's one of the most worthwhile things you can achieve in your life. This present life, in my opinion. If you cultivate, if you come here to this world, this high world, I feel that becoming a fourth stage ahat is one of the most noble things, the most important things you can attain in your life. It's just my personal opinion. Okay. Đó. Và cái ngài tứ quả La Hán là vị rất đặc biệt, là khắp cái vũ trụ này rất nhiều người biết về ngài. Phàm phu thì không biết, được những người mà có trí huệ người ta biết nhau. Người ta mới nói là cái người đặc biệt, quý vị nên tới đó mà cúng dường cho họ, nên gọi là người này người ứng cúng. Ok? Xứng đáng để nhận cái cúng dường của chúng ta. Cũng là sát tặc, là ngài không còn cái phiền não nữa, không còn buồn, không còn giận, không còn vui, không còn hờn. Ngài cũng là vô sanh, tại ngài đã muốn sống bao lâu cũng được, muốn chết lúc nào cũng được. Một cái cảnh giới rất là đặc biệt. Okay, so we're continuing with our explanation of fourth stage ahat here, because it's a very, very important concept. Okay, it's called wisdom. Now you have true transcendental wisdom. The first to third stage ahat wisdom is considered smaller wisdom. The arhat's wisdom is considered pretty significant. Okay? Alright. So, we are on slide 274. Okay? Again. An arhat kills the thieves of affliction. Afflictions are considered thieves for us because affliction robs us of our wisdom life. It shortens our wisdom life. That's why they're called thieves. Okay. A-la-hán là sát tặc, cái tặc của phiền não. Phiền não được coi là những người ăn cướp là tại vì họ ăn cướp cái huệ mạng của chúng ta, khiến chúng ta nghèo nàn hơn, cũng khiến chúng ta chết sớm hơn. Okay? The Bodhisattva is high level, much higher level than Arhat. Okay? He also kills the thieves, but he also kills something that the Arhat does not know about, something called ignorance. So the Bodhisattva is a much higher concept, much higher level than a fourth stage Arhat. Okay? By the way, when we talk about Arhats, it's short for fourth stage Arhat. It's below levels, third stage Arhats, we mention by stage. Okay? To discern the difference. Okay? So, the Bodhisattva is much higher level attainment in Buddhism that he gets there because he's aware of something that the Arhat is not aware of. He's aware of the need to get rid of ignorance that still plagues the Arhats. Okay? Người Bồ Tát một cái trình độ mà cao hơn nhiều, cao hơn người tứ quả là hạng nhiều lắm, xa vời lắm. Một trình độ rất là đặc biệt, khó hơn nhiều, tại vì các ngài có những cái hiểu biết mà người A-la-hán không hiểu được. Ngài biết cái tầm quan trọng của cái liễu và đoạn, cái vô minh. Là người A-la-hán còn rất nhiều cái vô minh mà không biết, mình còn vô minh. Okay? And that is the difference between the depth, between the Hinayana and Mahayana. That's one way to look at it. When you mention Buddhism, there's two main branches, Hinayana and Mahayana. And the difference between them is depth. That's all there is to it. Thành khi quý vị nghe Phật giáo có hai cái dòng chính, cái môn phái là tiểu thừa với đại thừa. Thì cái sự khác biệt giữa cái tiểu thừa với đại thừa chừng nữa thôi. Cái đại thừa nó thâm sâu hơn tiểu thừa nhiều lắm. Okay? And that's reflected in the goals of the practice. Hinayana, they wish to shoot for the fourth stage arhatship as the end goal. Whereas the Mahayana, their objective is to make it to the Bodhisattva stages. Okay? And I mentioned the word depth. The depth is that because the Bodhisattvas, the Mahayanas, practitioners, understand that afflictions arise from ignorance. Ignorance is a much deeper level of affliction that give rise. Ignorance gives rise to afflictions. Okay? So the Mahayana, their objective is to settle and go for the root of the problem. They're not happy with the high level of affliction, reduction, or elimination. Is that clear? So that's the difference in depth between Mahayana and Hinayana. Cái đại thừa đó là cái mục tiêu họ khác. Họ chú trọng về nhổ gõ tận gốc. Nhổ gõ tận gốc. Tận gốc là họ biết rằng cái vô minh là cái nguồn gốc của cái phiền não. Tiểu thừa chỉ lo liễu cái phiền não thôi, chứ còn vẫn chưa giải quyết được cái vô minh. Bên đại thừa ta hiểu rằng vô minh là nó sinh khởi cái phiền não. Thành ra bên đại thừa, người tu theo đại thừa là nhắm nhổ gõ tận gốc, là giải quyết cái vô minh luôn. Okay? All right. Yes.
Shifu, I was wondering, In the Pali Canon, in the Hinayana texts, they do talk a lot about ignorance and getting rid of ignorance being the cause of affliction.
Yes.
So how does that jive with what you're saying? They don't quite understand the true nature of ignorance, or what they're talking about by ignorance is not the same thing as what the Bodhisattva sees?
They can talk about it, but they don't have the technology to get rid of ignorance. They don't. They don't know how to. Okay? That's because they read it from the Mahayana text. But no one ever showed them how to do it. See? That's why there's something called principles and something called problem resolution. They never learn how to do it. That's why they still cannot get rid of ignorance. They say, it's something called ignorance. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to get rid of it. Okay? So you may imitate me, you may plagiarize me, okay? But you don't know how to do it. Okay? I still have the last laugh. We still have the last laugh. Okay? Câu hỏi là tại sao có nhiều sách bên chữ Pali, người ta nói là họ muốn giải quyết cái vô minh. Nhưng người ta nói nó hỏi câu hỏi là khác biệt gì với cái lời thầy mới giảng vừa rồi. Thì nói họ có thể giảng về vô minh, nhưng mà họ không biết cái phương pháp để mà giải quyết cái vô minh của họ. Họ không có cái kỹ thuật để mà đoạn cái vô minh đó, liễu cái vô minh đó. Thành ra nó khác biệt ở chỗ đó là cái vị hiểu cái tên, hiểu cái chữ, nhưng để quý vị không biết cái cách làm. Okay? Alright, any other questions? Alright. Now, the arhats, fourth stage arhat, the arhats, is realize something called the position of no study. Okay? Tới một cái vị mà vô học, có nghĩa là không cần học nữa. Meaning that he reached the level of true understanding. There's no need to understand anymore. Okay? That's how the Hinayana people put it. That attainment as a position of no study. Đến tiểu thừa gọi là cái vị mà vô học, không cần học nữa. But he has no need to study about afflictions anymore, but he still has to study about ignorance. Okay? Theo họ vô học là họ vô học về cái phiền não, đều vẫn còn học hỏi nhiều về cái vô minh. Okay? In fact, in Mahayana, the highest level of Bodhisattva, this is one position just below the Buddha's position. Đến Đại Thừa có một cái địa vị cao nhất mà chỉ thấp hơn địa vị cao, tối cao gọi là Phật quả thôi. Thì gọi là địa vị diệu giác, gọi là địa vị đẳng giác, đẳng giác và diệu giác. Đẳng giác. Thì ngay cái ngài đẳng giác Bồ Tát nó vẫn còn một cái phần cái gọi là cái tối hậu nó sinh tướng vô minh. Okay, cái đó là cái danh từ. So there is something called the last particle of ignorance, which is this is still give rise to production. Anyway, when you get there, then you can explain it to me. Okay. This is the principles behind it. I don't know what it is. Yes.
When you talk about ignorance, that you indicate that the ignorance meaning that the cause is one to be reborn, the main cause that the one is supposed to.
Right.
You talk about the reborn, recycle, right?
That's right. It causes us to cycle in the wheel of reincarnation. Okay? Well, the ignorance, the arhats has ignorances at the finer levels of Mahayana is called ignorance. Okay? But also called ignorance Hinayana, because the Hinayana, what they call ignorance, is actually primarily a sexual desire and give rise as an affliction. Okay, so they usually confuse that ignorance as a sexual desire. Yes.
I understand the ignorance has something to do with sexual desire, but that assuming the fact that the Arahant still has ignorance and he's supposed to be within the realm of the reborn and recycling.
Okay.
What about me then? Maybe about 100
Peter,
times reborn?
Peter, you know too much about Buddhism now. You should stop causing me problems. Your questions are getting better. I think last month your questions are kind of silly. Now the question is so precise. It's very good. You're catching up very quickly. Okay, but that's still book knowledge, okay? You still have to work at the aha moment. That's my criticism of you. For embarrassing me. Let me see if I can answer it for you. The ignorance that the Hinayana talked about, or they explained in the Hinayana context of the Arhats, or the Pratyeka Buddha, or the enlightened conditions in a Hinayana ideal, is called ignorance. Alright? But that ignorance there is not the same kind of ignorance that the Mahayana talked about. It's a coarser form of ignorance. Okay? In Mahayana, for you to move from the Hinayana level of Arhatship or Pratyeka Buddhaship to the Bodhisattva stage, you need to go through the processes of a lot of confusions, and then you reach ignorance. The ignorance there are very, very specific to Mahayana that the Hinayana doesn't know about. It's very refined, very, very fine, very minute. That if I told you about it, you will be laughing and say, Master, come on, you must be joking. Okay? And what happened, let me give you a clue of what it is. To give you an idea what ignorance, the differentiation between ignorance between Hinayana and Mahayana. Would you like to hear it today? Because he forced me now. Peter embarrassed me so much. He said, Master, you talk in circle. You talk about ignorance as Arhat and not knowing about ignorance, and then you say he and the ignorance. So where are you? Where do you stand? Can you take a stand here to help Peter understand clearly? I say, yeah, you caught me. Okay. So that's why he's forcing the issue. So it's not my fault. Okay. Good question. I think he's about to jump on the same thing as well. Am I correct? And this is what I call mutiny. I give you a difference between ignorance between an Arhat and the Bodhisattva. Is it fair? Because it's too complicated. Let me simplify it for you. Okay. Ignorance for the Arhat, basically the Arhat calls ignorance sexual desire. Yes. Who has no sexual desire? He is not interested in sex. Peter, control yourself. I know it's hard to accept. See, I get back at people in very subtle ways. Ông này cũng phá tôi. Hỏi tại sao A-la-hán mà đoạn vô minh, mà thầy nói đoạn vô minh mới thoát được cái sanh tử. Rồi thầy nói đoạn vô minh là xong, thầy qua đại thừa thầy nói là Bồ Tát mới thiệt sự đoạn vô minh, còn A-hán có đoạn vô minh. Thì cái vô minh thầy nó khác biệt chỗ nào? Thầy nói ông này càng ngày cũng hỏi càng hay. Tại tháng trước tôi cũng hỏi tầm bậy tầm bạ, bây giờ ông hỏi chính xác dễ sợ. Thầy mắc cỡ, thầy không biết sao trả lời. Thầy kẹt quá, thầy phải vào cái thế bí, thầy phải thử cái này. Nói cái vô minh của người A-la-hán là cái dục vọng, cái tình dục. Người A-la-hán gọi vô minh là vì cái tình dục thôi. So what happened is that to the Arhat, the deepest level of affliction that he recognizes is Peter? Yeah? That's right. Thank you. Very good. So that's as deep as he gets. He said, I know all my afflictions arise from sexual desire. So if I sever sexual desire, all my afflictions are gone. He's right. That's what he's shooting for. So when you talk to the arhat, you know this person arhat because he said, let's have sex. He said, no, thanks. Text likes it too. The fourth stage arhat, let me tell you, the fourth stage arhat is very clear. He says, let's have sex. He says, no, thank you. I'm not interested. Some of us do fake it, okay, Peter? You don't have to believe everyone. But, the true fourth stage arhat says, no, thank you. I'm not interested. I don't want to have sex with you. Okay? Because he ended sexual desire already. Is it clear? Is that what you want to hear? Text about the fourth stage arhat? I know this is the second week now. Thì cái người tứ quả A La Hán, nhiều khi con phải biên xuống tiếng Anh nghe tiếng Anh, biên xuống tiếng Việt nghe, tại như thầy như giảng thầy quên, ok? Thầy không biết dịch nữa, thành chỉ giảng vậy thôi, không có dịch, ok? Cái người tứ quả A La Hán, ngài biết là cái phiền não nó được tạo từ cái dục vọng, thành ngài nói tôi muốn diệt cái dục vọng, tôi muốn diệt cái phiền não, cách tốt nhất tôi chặt cái dục vọng, ngài chỉ chặt cái dục vọng thôi, là hết cái phiền não. Cái đó cái vô minh của ngài chỉ biết chừng nữa thôi. Okay? This is the extent of his knowledge of ignorance, by the way. The Hinayana understand ignorance as sexual desire. That's all they know. Is it clear? That's a difference between Hinayana and Mahayana. It's the same thing. Yes, it's sexual desire. But the Mahayana understand a lot more about it than the Hinayana. Okay? Rồi, cái sự khác biệt giữa cái tiểu thừa với đại thừa chuyện đó. Tiểu thừa đại thừa cũng biết là cái dục vọng là cái mà thấp nhất, nhưng đều cái người tiểu thừa không biết rõ về cái dục vọng bằng cái đại thừa. Yes, text.
So the third state already has no desire, right?
Yes, only in the desire realm.
Okay, now what distinguishes the fourth state from the third?
It has no desire in the form realm nor the formless realms as well. That's right. Okay? When you get there, you know. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to you right now, but when you're there, you understand what I'm talking about. Okay. So far, so good? Okay? Now, I'm not done answering Peter's question yet because he's still shaking his knees. I'm not satisfied yet. I'm coming to you. I'm not letting you off the hook easily, Peter, for embarrassing me. Okay, so I just explained about the ignorance of the arhat, right? I'm going to tell you about ignorance of the bodhisattva to contrast it for you, to show you that it is so much more inconceivable than you can ever dream of. Okay? For example, okay? The arhat says, I've ended sexual desire. He says, I know I've ended sexual desire. Okay? That's because it's my ignorance. Right? I ended my ignorance. Okay? However, he doesn't realize that to make up a sexual desire, how it's made up. Okay? He only ended the coarse makeup of it. He has not ended the refined, the finer, the minute sources of sexual desire. He ended only the coarse ones. That's why he had put an end to the body birth and death. But he has not put an end to his mind birth and death, meaning he still has not put an end to his thoughts. You see? That's the arhat. Arhat cannot put an end to his thoughts. Yes. He has very minute brain waves that he cannot control. He can control the coarse brain waves, he cannot control the minute brain waves. Is it clear? It's a difference. Huh? So, if you look at it that way, then you see that sexual desire can jump up through all the minute brain waves to the coarse brain waves. So the arhat says, I can control the section that controls that causes my coarse brain waves to function. But he has no way of dealing with the minute, the more refined, the deeper brain waves inside of him. He has no way to do it. That's the difference. Is it clear? Good question. Very good question. You begin to understand Buddhism for a change. Yes. Yeah. The question is, the fourth stage arhat understands that sexual desire, okay, causes us to be afflicted, to have afflictions. Affliction meaning that sexual desire causes us to like nice clothing. Okay? Oh, nice fragrances. Okay? Nice cars. Nice houses. Makeup. Okay? So he understands that, and therefore he finds a way to cut off that nature, those instigators. Okay? Part of sexual desire. But sexual desire is so much bigger. So he managed to end a very tiny sexual part of sexual desire. Okay? That control the coarse thinking. But the remaining part of sexual desire is very refined part of sexual desire. Okay? Causes a lot more minute thinking, more refined thought patterns that the arhat cannot deal with. And that's his drawback.
So the fourth stage arhats, he understood how that influenced the mind.
Right.
But he realized he can't change the very root.
Yeah, he cannot change the lower brainwave length. Okay, the more difficult to access one. Okay, he understands so much. The arhat says, I'm not interested. I don't have any sexual desire anymore because it no longer fools me. I don't find it interesting anymore. Okay, so he managed to understand that, have that kind of self-control. Okay, but at the level, let's talk about coarse thoughts. The coarse thought is, let's have sex. You see, can you imagine me and monk talking about sex? Okay, the coarse thought is that let's have sex. Okay, so the arhat. See, most of us, when we're driven by the coarse thought, is that we find that the thought that having sexual intercourse, having sex, is appealing to us. Is it clear? Roberta, you agree with that? Shame on you. There's a boy sitting next to you. Okay, so you see what I'm getting at? The thought of sexual intercourse is appealing to you, to us. Okay? It's not appealing to the arhat. That's the difference between us and the arhat. Okay? So far so good? Now Peter is gonna cause more problems for the master.
I will not ask this today, but this is only last questions. Am I allowed to ask this?
You've exceeded your quota already.
Probably the major question.
Yes,
okay?
Go ahead.
If I understood you correctly, then it means that the whole Buddhism, the recycling process, has major points, major facts, something to do with the sexual desire. That causes ignorance and rebirth. Am I right there?
Finally, an easy question. Câu hỏi là Phật giáo không phải là đoạn cái sanh tử. Let me elaborate for you. This is where Buddhism is so criticized, is so misunderstood. As something that we condemn sexual desire. Okay, we do have that label. Right? Nên là cái Phật giáo có cái hình tượng là không đoạn cái tình dục. Okay. Let's be realistic about it. Okay. It's because of sexual desire, because of sexual intercourse, that there's procreation, isn't it? You agree? Okay? It's because of sexual intercourse is birth. Birth. Right? Without sexual intercourse, no birth. Agree? Agree? Okay, now she's laughing. And she says, see, monks, you think monks don't dare talk about it? I talk about anything. Yes. I agree with you. Will you talk to my Buddha? Yeah.
I think people make a kind of system where they won't have sex because it is strong desire, so they were scared to control it. If they can control it, they started from there. But I know some Buddhist practice in China, they allow it to marry.
Yeah.
So I think it's better on how we balance it. If you want to figure it out.
It sounds good to me. I agree with you. Let me explain to you. Okay, I know where you're coming from. This is why Buddhism is so vilified. People misunderstand Buddhism. And let me try, see if today I can clarify it for you. What's your name again? Remember, it's a quota in my Sutra lecture. 1 hard question per day. Okay. Okay, let me backtrack. Okay. You understand that in our world, sexual intercourses give rise to birth. That's a fact, right? Okay? That's the way it is. Well, for most of us. Okay? Okay. And therefore, this is the difference between the Arhat and us. The Arhat is said to have ended birth and death because he says, I'm not interested in sexual desire. I'm not interested in having sex. Therefore, he put an end to his birth, hasn't he? He has put an end to birth. Is that clear? That's the Buddhist principles behind it. Okay? You may disagree with whatever. We're not talking about your personal beliefs. We're talking about the principles behind it. He says, fundamentally, because of sexual intercourse, I give rise to birth of my children. Right? And therefore, if I don't engage in sexual intercourse, I give no rise to birth of my children. So I put an end to birth. We agree with that? So far, so good? Yes.
I don't quite get that. I mean, you could have a person who doesn't have sex, but they're not an arhat, and they die. They're still going to be reborn. I mean, they're not going to give birth to anybody, but that doesn't mean that they won't be born as somebody else's children. Aren't they different, at a different level, kind of?
Not quite that. I'm simplifying a lot for the sake of, because people are interested in about sexual desire, so why Buddhism is so anti-sexual desire. I'm just saying that it's not anti-sexual desire. It's just that he realizes that for me to break the cycle of birth and death, I need to stop. Okay? I stop myself. If everyone stops, then we'll be in big trouble, aren't we? Right? But can everyone stop? No, we can't. Can we? How many arhats are there that you know of? That's why that's what makes the world go around. It's called ignorance, because we will not believe it. This is what makes the arhat so special. He says, I understand, I am able to put an end to my sexual desire. So I rise above all of you. Is it clear? We can't. Can we? Don't answer that, Peter.
I was about to ask a question, but I promised you that I will not ask, so I'll stop.
No, go ahead and ask questions.
No, I promise you.
Probably an easy question, yes.
No, next week.
Just pretend it's going to be easy question, then it should be safe.
It's
Go
better
easy on the old monk, okay? Go on.
Isn't that Veda tradition? Veda? The recycling births and deaths, reincarnation, and the sexual desire was the major fact that contributes to rebirths.
Yes.
That doesn't seem to be the Buddha's enlightenment, but it just was already in existence among the Vedic.
Are we talking about the Hindu Veda tradition? Okay. It has nothing to do with the Buddha. The Buddha does not invent sexual desire or ending sexual desire. He only says, this is why I observe, why it's happening. He doesn't create it.
I'm talking about the ignorance about how and why that person's supposed to be reborn and and in the circle of reincarnation.
Yeah.
That thought, if I understood correctly, then that thought already in existence during the Vedic times.
Yes.
During the 7th century BC. So that was not the enlightenment of the Buddha, but
No, it isn't.
so it was tradition that took over by Buddha, right?
No, it's just explained by the Buddha. The Buddha only explains the facts of life. He didn't invent life. Buddha never created life. He never claims that I created life. I created Roberta, and Roberta created Robert, and Robert created, the grandson. No, the Buddha says, I just described you why things are happening, why Roberta came here, how Thomas came here, how Peter becomes so smart about Buddhism. Okay? So, all the Buddha does is he explains things. He doesn't invent things. He doesn't. That's the difference between, in Buddhism, the Buddha only states facts. He doesn't invent anything, by the way. He only speaks the truth. He says, this is what I know. This is what is really happening that you are not aware of. Okay, going back to sexual desire. We're not done yet. Okay? And this is difficult, and Kim Ding has to translate that because it's too complicated for me to try to translate it. Okay. So, let me go further for you. The Arhat, he says that I realize that I will not blame you for your sexual desire, or Peter for his, but I only am responsible for myself. I realize that for me to get out of it, I will have to put an end to my own sexual desire. He does not judge us. Okay? He says, you live your life, I live mine. My life, my choice is that I know that I want to put an end to my own birth and death. Okay? How? By putting an end to my sexual desire. Let me tell you why putting an end to the thought of sexual desire, okay, frees him from birth and death. You want to hear that?
Yeah.
Because the thought of wanting sexual desire give rise to all other thoughts. Is it clear?
It's a person who's 12 minutes.
Yes. That thought that says, I want sexual intercourse, give rise to all other thoughts. So the Arhat says, this is not for show. This is for real for him. He says that I realize that all the other thoughts go back to the thought of sexual desire. All the other coarse thoughts. Okay? Go back to that thought. Let's have sex. Is that clear? So the Arhat said, he gets to the point and said, I see that one thought I have left. This sexual desire, that the thought of having sex. He says, I chop it off. Then he's done. That's why his put an end to his birth and death. Birth here is the birth of all thoughts, all coarse thoughts, including the thought of sexual desire. All coarse thoughts, including the first one, the thought of sexual intercourse, or wanting sexual intercourse. Okay? So he says, I cultivate, and my level of wisdom is that I don't give rise to this thought called sexual intercourse. Wanting sexual intercourse. That's all he does. Okay? He's not telling you that you must not. He's not telling me that I must not. He says, I don't want it. So that's how I control my destiny. Okay? And because of not giving rise to the first thought of wanting sexual intercourse, okay, he also are able to live as long as he wants. Yes. Okay? He is able to enter samadhi and live as long as he wants. Okay? So, that's the nature of the arhat. Okay? Now, going back to your point, why is that, some people are why is it Buddhism promote the elimination of sexual desire? Because sexual desire is the root of all the evil in our world. Think about it. Yes. As soon as you have sexual desire, you will stop anything. That's the nature of our human existence. Sexual desire gives rise to all kinds of vices. Okay? So, Buddhism says, if you really know the root source of all these evil, the problem in the world, it's caused by sexual desire. Okay? And if you're able to manage yourself so that you don't give rise to sexual desire, then you're able to control your own evils. Those of us who cannot control our sexual desire, it's okay. It's just the way we are. We're not there yet. So, okay? So, the bad image of Buddhism, or the misunderstanding part about the Buddhism, is that they say Buddhism condemns sexual desire. No, it doesn't. The Buddha says, your problem arises from sexual desire. Okay? If you want to indulge in it, fine, go indulge in it. If you don't want to, here's a way to do it. That's all he says. And remember what I explained about this morning? Buddhism is about a deep, profound respect for each individual. He doesn't tell you what to do. All the Buddha says, here's the problem. Your unhappiness, your trouble is because of these reasons. You can choose to do something about it, or you can choose to ignore it. It's your choice. It totally respects our individual choices. It doesn't force it on us at all. Never. Okay? So, Buddhism is about this set of beliefs, this set of explanations to help you have a picture of why things are happening. And then you choose your own path. That's all. Is that clear? So, for example, the Buddha realizes, he says, for example, people like In, who's very attached to teaching children, okay, and being a teacher, okay, then there's a path of Buddhist practice called a lay person, where the Buddha says, this is what you ought to be doing as a lay person. And then there are people like me, nice teacher, who says, I want to know a little bit more. I want to have a little bit more out of my life. Then he says, there's a path called for left home people. Left home people meaning that you become a monk and you sever your ties with your family so that you can concentrate on your monk work. Okay? Then there's a way to do it that will help us make it easier for us to sever sexual desire. Okay? The lay people path, you can also get there. It's a bit longer, a lot longer. For us, monks and nuns, we have a more intensive approach. Okay. Now, that goes back to your point. Why is it monks don't eat much, and they don't smile, or they poor? Okay. All those things. All those things are the secret training techniques that the Buddha taught us, that has been very effective for 3,000 years now. Okay? So, don't knock them, because they are very effective, very specialized, very effective to help us become a fourth-stage arhat. Our practice, our goal, when I wear this clothes, is that I'm reminding myself that my end goal, one of my major goals in life, is to become a fourth-stage arhat. That's why I'm doing this. Okay? So it's different from your goals. Oh, by the way, lay people can also become fourth-stage arhat. They can. And higher. For example, I know of a handful of people who are bodhisattvas, who are lay people. So they reach way beyond fourth-stage arhat even, as a lay person. So the Buddha has many pathways, okay? And you still get there. You all can get there. It's a matter of time. Okay? So far, so good? Okay. Does it help improve the image of Buddhism to you? Kim Điền nghe hiểu không? Cái phần này phần quan trọng. Mình nói rõ ràng, người ta hiểu lầm. Ta nói là Phật giáo mình cực đoan, Phật giáo mình không có cực đoan đâu. Phật giáo là cái sự lựa chọn con đường mình đi thôi, cái đường tài gia, người xuất gia thôi. Ok. Vì xuất gia thì cái pháp tới tứ quả La Hán nó lẹ hơn và nó tích cực hơn, nó gắt gao hơn. Còn người tại gia cũng tới đó được, nhưng điều nó chậm hơn và nó nhẹ nhàng. Thành ra mỗi con đường nó khác nhau. Đức Phật chỉ diễn tả, mô tả, giảng cái nghĩa, cái tình trạng của cái thế giới này thôi. Đức Phật không ép chúng ta làm cái gì hết. Any other questions? Okay. And finally, and last point in slide 274, we're making progress after an hour and a half. The equal enlightenment bodhisattvas, they are struggling with one final particle of ignorance. It is so minute, it is so refined that they can't handle it. It takes them forever to eliminate it. Then they become a Buddha. Cái đẳng giác Bồ Tát là còn một cái phần vô minh mà nó vi tế đến độ mà các ngài thấy không nổi luôn nữa. Thành ra phải cần giải quyết cái đó, xong rồi mới thành được Phật. Nó khó, nó rất là khó. Yes, Thomas.
Of for a bodhisattva, what ignorance is like at the more subtle level, but you maybe got distracted by some of the other questions. So I was raising that again.
No, I didn't forget about it. I decided to skip it, but you caught me again. For example, very perceptive of you. You see, this guy is hungry for information. I give you information, but I will not teach you the secrets. He's right. I started by saying I decided to skip it because hoping no one would notice. I was caught again. Okay. That's the second time today, And I just remember, when you embarrass the master gets back at you. I believe in force equal reaction, cause equals effect. And it's no threat. No empty threat. Okay. I started by saying that the arhat says, I know that sexual desire causes all my afflictions. That's what the Arhat knows. He's so wise. He says, I know that now. I know that my thought of having sex causes all the other problems. So I put an end to it. Okay? So I know, in particular the fourth stage Arhat says, I know I can put an end to my thought of sexual desire. Right? I'm a fourth stage Arhat. I can put an end to it. I have given no rise to such thoughts. So far so good? He knows that. He says, that's why I'm a fourth stage Arhat. Okay? So far so good? Is it clear? Cái người, hồi này thầy muốn bỏ qua chuyện này, như là cái ông này muốn bắt thầy một lần nữa, bắt chèn một lần nữa. Nói là cái người tứ quả La Hán là có thể nói là biết, ngài biết rằng, tôi biết rằng cái tư tưởng mà tình dục đó là chuyện không tốt. Thành tôi có cái khả năng mà không khởi cái tư tưởng là muốn chuyện tình dục. Nó nói tôi biết cái chuyện đó. Ok? Thành mới gọi là tứ quả La Hán. Người tứ quả La Hán tới đó quý vị sẽ biết là tôi không muốn cái chuyện này, tôi biết rồi không muốn. So the fourth stage Arhat, the Arhat says, I know, I don't have that kind of thought. Okay? I don't want that kind of thought. So far so good? Okay. The Bodhisattva, that's an Arhat, right? Cái đó là cái trình đoạn A-la-hán. Còn Bồ Tát là sao? The Bodhisattva says, that thought is bad news. Yes. Người Bồ Tát đó, nói là cái biết đó là không tốt. You get it? Of course not. Knowledge is no good. Cái hiểu biết đó là không tốt. Your knowledge of that thought, the knowledge of the facts, is no good. Isn't that interesting? He says, my knowing that is no good. It's an impediment. Nghe rõ không? Cái biết đó là cái cản trở. Cái biết đó là chuyện không tốt. Yes. Yeah. No. The Arhat says, I know. I put an end to sexual desire. I know it's no good. Okay? I know that sexual desire is no good. That knowledge, he says, I know. That knowing, that the Arhat realizes and certifies to the Bodhisattva is bad news. The Bodhisattva wants to get rid of that thought even. He says, I don't want that thought. The Arhat hangs on to that thought. You got that text? The Arhat says, I know this is my attainment. I am able to do it. Okay? I got it. The Bodhisattva says, I don't want that thought. Why? Because it's still a thought, isn't it? Isn't it beautiful? That's a subtlety between the Hinayana and Mahayana. Thế thì thấy không? Cái người A-la-hán biết là tôi biết, tôi có tư tưởng, vẫn còn cái tư tưởng là tôi biết là tôi đã đoạn được cái tình dục rồi. Người Bồ Tát nói là cái tư tưởng nó vẫn còn, cái tư tưởng là tôi biết là vẫn còn không tốt. Thành cái người Bồ Tát, cái pháp người Bồ Tát nó vi tế hơn nhiều, và đoạn những cái tư tưởng đó luôn rồi. So the Bodhisattva's Dharma is much more subtle, Jimmy. He says, I want to end even such thought, such knowledge. I don't even want it. Because it's still a thought. Isn't that beautiful? That's the depth between Mahayana and Hinayana. Cái khác biệt giữa cái chiều sâu của Đại Thừa với Tiểu Thừa. Because in Mahayana, there's something that you ought to know. This is very advanced, okay, and very maybe disconcerting to some of you. In Mahayana, there's a concept called the obstruction of what is known. You heard of it, right? One of the 8 difficulties, okay? What are the 8 difficulties? Okay? Yes? Sorry, Chang. Sure, Chang. Your knowledge obstructs you. The obstruction, what is known, meaning your own knowledge obstructs you and binds you down. Give an example. Cái này quan trọng. Cái là cái sở tri chướng, sủa trư trọng. Okay, sở tri chướng. Cái đó là cái sở tri chướng. Là cái biết của mình đó, nó cột mình lại. For example, you know that having $1 billion is a good thing. Right? Therefore, what do, Peter? You hang on to your $1 billion, don't you? You can't let go. That's called the obstruction of what is known. That knowledge binds you down. Chẳng hạn như quý vị biết rằng là cái tô phở nó ngon, thành ra quý vị vì cái biết đó quý vị chụp cái tô phở, quý vị không bỏ cái tô phở được. Thành cái biết đó, nó cột mình lại. Is it clear? Isn't it beautiful? That's Mahayana. Mahayana says, when you reach that finer levels, it's the knowledge that is undesirable. It makes you feel like burning all the books, doesn't it? Not all books. Peter says, I buy it, but I'm not going to burn all books. The Bodhisattva says, I'm burning all books. I'm not attached to anything. Attached to any knowledge. As soon as you read it, you burn it. You read it, you burn it. You read it, you burn it. You're attached to nothing. It doesn't mean that you have to burn all the books. It only means that you read it, you drop it. You know, you drop. You know, you drop, Jimmy. It's not about burning books. It's not about condemning knowledge. It's about not attaching, not acting on knowledge. Okay? The Buddha is not saying that you should not know. The Buddha say, whatever you know, don't attach to your knowledge. Boy, Ian is now struggling with that. What's my degree for? Your degree is for your boss to attach to, not you. That's the difference. Okay? We get a degree because we need to show it to our boss so that we get paid and get hired. Okay? But we're not attached to it. That's the difference. So far, so good? Yeah. She says that so many people like Peter who love to read sutras and read books. And so their obstruction of what is known is so heavy. And I say, yes, of course. Because they know a lot more than the monks and nuns. And that, remember that man, explained that he spent 22 years listening to all the lectures on a Vajra Sutra, and he says, what did he say? I know a lot more than you do. What is that called? Obstruction of what is known. Yeah. He knows too much. And he still cannot get rid of it. Therefore he thinks he knows everything. That's why I look at it. If you really understand the Vajra Sutra, you would not have said that I know everything about Vajra Sutra. You would have never said that. Agree? Thành cái gì thấy cái ông mà Giang Vi Nông mà ông nói là tôi sau khi nghiên cứu 22 năm cái bộ kinh Kim Cang này, tôi cũng không ai biết hơn tôi, là ông đang bị cái sở tri chướng, phải không Kim Điền? Tại nếu ông mà không bị, ông đâu có nói, ông đâu có nghĩ là ông biết đâu. Rõ ràng đang bị kẹt, thành người vẫn chưa hiểu được kinh Kim Cang. That's why I rest my case. I said that's why this guy does not understand the Vajra Sutra. I don't care what he says. He's still stuck by it. Is it clear? Yes? Everyone is awake. How about that? On a hot day, hot afternoon. We're all sweating like crazy, but yes, Thomas.
Aren't there different levels to this knowledge? Like the guy who wrote that book, he probably way below even the level of a fourth stage arhat. So he's just got a very limited kind of intellectual knowledge. But I guess you could also say that even the higher levels of attainment of actual wisdom, it's still a kind of knowledge you can get stuck on, even though it's beyond that sort of book knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't even know. You don't even know. This is why, you see what he just made? His point is very good. It's not a question, by the way. That's why I forgive him. That's how he's getting smart. Instead of asking questions, he's making statements now. Too smart. I mean, them boys are so sneaky. I mean, that's precisely the point. The point is that at different levels of bodhisattva, they're stuck on certain kind of knowledge. They don't realize they're stuck on certain kind of knowledge, including the enlightenment bodhisattva. He's stuck on a particular kind of knowledge. He doesn't even realize it. Okay? Thành ra hôm nay câu hỏi hay lắm, khéo, càng ngày càng tuổi nó càng thông minh. Thầy mới nó hỏi câu hóc búa mà thầy khó chịu thì nó nói, nó làm cái statement. Thì nói là thì những cái người mà giác ngộ ta vẫn có bị kẹt những cái tri kiến, nó đúng. Cái sợ tri kiến nó nguy hiểm dễ sợ. Ngay người đẳng giác Bồ Tát mà, vẫn còn một cái sợ tri tướng, một cái sợ tri kiến, tri chướng mà không có thấy được luôn. Nó khó đến độ như vậy, nó vi tế đến độ như vậy. Okay? Any other questions or comments? Very good discussion. You guys are very alive. You very active. You really understand. We are delving into the depth of Buddhism that people don't talk about. And you guys are doing very well. I'm very proud of you. Trình độ hiểu biết cái gì nó rất đặc biệt, rất là khá. Tại ít người mà nói có thể bàn luận tới cái Phật giáo mà cái sự phân biệt này nó rất là vi tế, mà mình có thể bàn được như vậy là trình độ cái gì hiểu biết về Phật giáo rất là khá. Okay, I'm on slide 275. Continuing with the fourth stage arhat, this attainment of in Buddhism, and in this section of the sutra, the Buddha says, can a fourth stage arhat have the thought, I've attained a fourth stage arhat? And Subhuti says, no, they have that kind of thought. Okay, why? Because the fourth stage arhat is basically a name. It's meaningless. He's not attached to the name even. Remember? The name is but a thought. So he's not even attached to a thought. Okay? Thành ra, phần này Đức Phật hỏi Ngài Tu Bồ Đề là cái người tứ quả La Hán. Còn cái tư tưởng là tôi đạt tứ quả La Hán chưa? Không. Thì Ngài Tu Bồ Đề trả lời không, sao không có được? Tại vì cái người tứ quả La Hán đâu có chấp trước vào cái quả vị nữa. Thành sao mà còn cái tư tưởng nó được. Okay? Cái tứ quả chỉ là một cái tên thôi, nó chẳng có ý nghĩa gì hết đối với người tứ quả La Hán. Okay. Only an empty name. Because if you still think of it as an attainment, then this person is attached to Dharma, a Dharma of attainment, achievement of success. And therefore, he has not realized the emptiness of dharmas yet. Dharmas, by the way, those of you who don't know, dharma is just anything, everything. Okay? A dharma means anything and everything. Dharma with the capital D is short for Buddha Dharma. That's a Buddhist principles. Okay? Is that clear? Please pay attention to the distinction. So the capital letters matters here. So it's there, he's still attached to Dharma, meaning that he's still attached to something called achievement. Achieving the fourth stage arhatship. He's not attached to it anymore. Okay? And if he's attached, he says, I'm attached to attaining a fourth stage arhatship, then he has not realized the emptiness of dharmas, meaning that he has not realized that even the name called fourth stage arhatship, basically it's just a concept. It's meaningless. Okay? It's a name that we use to impress you, confuse people. But once you get there, you say, there's nothing to impress people about. Right? There you go. You see? After you get it, you don't try to impress people anymore. It's only the people who don't get it is trying to impress you constantly. He says, I know about fourth stage hardship. It's wonderful. I cannot tell you what it is, but I'm pretty close to it. Okay? They drop hints to impress you. The fourth stage arhat says, fourth stage arhat, it's nothing. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing worth talking about. Okay? So that's why once you reach fourth stage arhatship, you become very poor. That's why we train ourselves to be poor right away. Okay? See the beauty of the two approaches, the two major approaches I talked about. Lay people, it's okay to make money and buy cars and a house and have many girlfriends and boyfriends and so on. It's perfectly okay. Okay? On the left home side, the monk and nun side, we immediately become poor because ultimately we have nothing. We go towards nothing, not attaching to anything. Okay? Does that help? It's different approaches, a little bit more intensive on our side. Yes?
To the notion, I have attained arhatship, he sees that's an empty thought, but he's still attached to the thought, I have ended sexual desire.
No. He attached to, he attached to the knowledge that, I know.
Not a thought.
I know that I'm not attached to sexual desire.
That's not a thought.
It's a knowledge. It's still a thought.
But it's more subtle. He doesn't realize he's attached there when he realizes not to attach to the thought, I have attained arhatship.
He doesn't realize he's attached to that thought, I ended sexual desire. He doesn't even know. Shh, that's our secret. I want you to know, you go out there and see fourth stage arhat. Be very humble, pay respect, because he's a very special individual. I'm only telling you, sharing with you today, that remain our little secret. Okay? That he's still attached to that thought, that knowledge. I need it. You guys are confused. I'm special. He doesn't even realize he thinks he's himself special. Isn't that fascinating? Yeah. That's the nature of subtle ignorance. You got that, Peter? Yeah, still no. Isn't that fascinating, Jimmy? They think it's such a great thing. I'm not telling you. I say, there's nothing at all. But deep down, I say, I'm capable of something. I know something you don't. Yes, Tex. Yeah. But you see, But you see, the thing about it is that because you speak, you see, text, you being humorous, but your humor is nonsense. It's nonsense to me. Okay? It may make sense to them, but it doesn't make sense to me. Okay? You know what? Humor, he's being humorous. And I appreciate levity, but it's nonsense. His humor is nonsense. Because he says, when I get to the fourth stage arahat, I make sure that, you know, that I tell you about it. I don't attach it. I bring it out. Okay? My own attachment. But you see, but it doesn't quite make sense because that's not how the arahat thinks. It doesn't think like that. You're only projecting what you're thinking right now. When you get there, then your statement doesn't make sense. Okay? I assure you. Okay. Yes.
I'm wondering, is it accurate to say, I've heard it said elsewhere that basically the highest level of your attainment is also where you're stuck? Is that generally speaking true, that you get stuck there?
That's true. And that's why in Buddhism, we advocate humility. Because when you're stuck, you don't know you're stuck. You think you know everything, and the master is wrong. Okay? The master is not wrong. You don't understand what he's talking about, that's all. Okay? The master is not wrong, trust me. My master is not wrong. I know that. I'm wrong. He's not. That's what I know. That's why I believe it. Okay? If you think your master is wrong, you're in big trouble. Find a different master. That's what I say. If you really believe your master is wrong, run. Don't stick around. Don't get stuck. Okay? It's usually the case your master explains things to you and you don't get it. He's trying to tell you something, you don't get it. Because what Thomas just said. You don't even know that you're stuck. You don't know. You think you're normal. You think you're so great. Okay? Alright, continue with slide 274. So, if you have a thought of obtaining that I obtain arhatship, fourth stage arhatship, then there's a thought of a self. There's an I who obtain. Clearly, right? This is how your world is run. I am great. I am hot. Okay? I am full. And sleepy. He's not even listening anymore. I hate people. Never mind. I love men. You know, it's an I. I attain fourth stage arhatship. That's called a mark, meaning there is a external thing that can be observed. It's called a mark. Okay? There's a mark of a self. There is a self somewhere that can be seen by all of us. That's called a mark. Mark of the self. And this is a very important point. Once you have a mark of a self, okay, please remember this. It produces others right away. That's the second thoughts. You get it? As soon as you say I, there's an I somewhere, there's others right away. You don't stop. Is it clear? This is precision of the Buddhist technology. The Buddha described the way we function in such intricate details. It's fascinating. Okay? It's because there's an I, that there is I and you and them. There's me and the world. Okay? And because of that, then you create a mark of living beings. Because of there's others, then you become to differentiate between different kinds of others. There's some dogs, some cats, there's some ghosts, there's some spirits, there's some men, there's some women. Okay? So you differentiate. That's called, you differentiate different types of beings. It's called living beings. And then you differentiate to the mark of life, meaning the length of life. Each living being then can live for so long. There's a definite, limited time period. So these 4 marks that that Sutra talks about. Me, others, that's 2. Living beings, that's 3. And a lifespan, that's 4. This is why, this is how we discriminate. In that order. First there's a rise to an I, then there is them, and there is different kinds of them, and then there is a lifespan. Isn't it beautiful? This is how we function. This is how our mind functions. Peter says, yeah, I'm looked by it. See? I. There's an I right away. Okay? So far so good? So you still attach to the 4 marks. Any questions? Alright, we're moving on to the next slide. We're making progress today. 276. Okay, slide number 3. The Arhat, the 4th stage Arhat, have put an end to what is called outflows. This is a very, very important Buddhist concept, folks. Outflow. What is outflow? As the word says, it flows out. Of where? Of what? Of you. Lậu. Lậu là cái hữu lậu, là cái lậu là nó chạy ra từ đâu? Chạy ra từ mình, từ bản ngã của mình. It flows out of your great self. Nó bị lầu ra, bị chảy ra từ cái bản ngã của mình, cái bản tính của mình. That is a loss. An outflow is a loss. Lầu là một cái sự mất mát. Okay. Then Arhat is said to have no more outflows, has put an end to all outflows because he has no more afflictions. Vì A-la-hán là vô lậu là tại vì Ngài đã đoạn tất cả những cái phiền não. Because afflictions are outflows, different forms of outflows. Cái phiền não là cái loài lậu. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Okay. He has no more afflictions. For example, he does not fight with living beings. In particular, the kind of outflow the Arhat had put an end to is the spirit of fighting, the mind of fighting. Okay. Cái phiền não Ngài đã đoạn hết rồi. Tất cả những phiền não Ngài đã đoạn hết. Nhất là một cái loại phiền não là cái loại phiền não của đòi tranh giành, tranh giật với người khác. Okay? He doesn't fight, he engages in fights. Okay? And therefore, if he says, I obtain a fruition of arhatship, then it comes from associated with fighting mind. Okay? He has no greed. By the way, folks, when you get the fourth stage arhatship, you realize that there's nothing to be attained. Okay? Khi quý vị tới cái tứ quả A-la-hán, quý vị sẽ thấy là không có cái gì để mà đắc được hết. Okay? That is why. Before you get there, when you get real close, you have to let go of the desire to get there even. You know, interesting? If you still hang on to that thought, you say, oh, how much longer? I want to get there so bad. You never make it. Vì biết không? Muốn tới gần tới tứ quả A-la-hán, phải xả cái tư tưởng loài, cái nguyện vọng muốn tới đó phải xả nó luôn, tại không còn một cái tham muốn gì nữa. He's not angry anymore. This arhat is no longer angry. Người ngài A-la-hán không còn giận, because he has no more desire. He has no more unfulfilled desire. Ngài không còn một cái dục vọng gì mà chưa được thỏa mãn, thành không giận. Okay. His nature of arhat is very interesting. The arhat, okay, does not contradict with you. Rather, he accords with you. Người A-la-hán á, không có tranh giành với quý vị, không có tranh đấu với quý vị, mà chỉ thuận với quý vị. He accords with you. He goes along with you. Shun! That's what arhat does. 他顺别人. Is that how you say in Chinese? That's accord. To accord is to go along. You don't fight. Cái người A-la-hán là thuần với người khác, không có tranh giành, không có ép người ta. He doesn't say, I don't like it. Oh, I don't like this at all. I don't like this anymore. Either you go away or I go away. That's fighting. Cái người mà tứ quả A-la-hán không nói là tôi không thích nữa, hoặc là thầy bỏ đi, hoặc là tôi bỏ đi. Người đó không phải là người tứ quả A-la-hán. Okay? Because the mind and the state are both empty. All these are very important Buddhist principles that you need. I put it down here for a purpose. I want you to hear this concept. These concepts are very important. Okay? These are key concepts in arhatship. Thầy bỏ những cái trong cái tâm 276 này là tại thầy cố ý dùng những cái danh từ này để quý vị hiểu cái cảnh giới của vị A-la-hán. Okay? Tâm và cảnh đều là không. What is mind? Mind is you. Your conscious mind. That's what the mind here refers to. Your thinking mind. Cái tâm này là cái tâm suy nghĩ của quý vị. The mind says, why, this guy speaks sutra so well. That's a conscious mind. You don't have to praise me. You just look at me with adoring eyes. That's good enough. Okay? So the conscious mind says, I like it. This is great. That's a conscious mind. Okay? And state is outside. Mind is inside, state is outside. Both inside and outside are non-existent. He no longer discriminates inside, in his heat. He sits here and he Buddha Hall and says, oh my God, it's so hot today. I can't stand it. How come they don't have any AC here? It's so brutal, this temple. You know? So the mind is not empty and the state is not empty, is it? That's why you should endure a little bit more next week. Okay. Quý vị thấy không? Cái người đang ngồi nói là trời ơi sao cái chỗ này nó nóng quá, tôi chịu đựng nổi nữa. Cái chùa này sao mà cái chùa nó dã man dễ sợ, bắt người ta tới bắt nghe kinh mà ngồi mà chảy mồ hôi dầm. Là cái tâm đó, là cái ngã nó vẫn còn, là than mình bị nóng. Thấy cái chùa, thấy cái cảnh nó vẫn còn ở ngoài, vẫn còn ngoại cảnh, cái cảnh nó nóng quá. Là cái tâm với cảnh nó là đều không hết, thì không còn sợ nóng rồi cũng không còn sợ lạnh. Now you know why we economize on the ACs and the heaters in the temple. So the inside and outside are constantly still. This is very interesting. Constantly still. What does constantly still means? Trong ngoài nó đều là thường là tịch. Nghĩa là sao? Meaning what? Constantly still. One more minute. Yes, in. Excellent. No thought to the inside conditions or the outside conditions. He says, it's hot. So what? Okay? Is that clear? Alright. That's the end of today's lecture. I will continue the following week to 70 to 77. You like it? Thank you. Alright. You make it fun. And make me forget, help me forget it's so hot today. Okay. See you next week. Thank you. Okay, now we do the transference to help some people obtain rebirth of the Pure Land. Okay? So this is a transference, to give away all, the goodness is to help people obtain rebirth. Okay? That's our tradition. The goodness is we generate, we give it away. We don't keep it. That's our spirit. May these merits and virtues adorn the Buddha's Pure Land, repaying the 4 kinds of kindness above, in threefold paths below. May those who see and hear all bring forth the Bodhi mind. And when this retribution body is done, be all born in a land of utmost bliss. Nam mô Ta chư Vấn Shu Chư Ly Bồ Sa. Nam mô Ta chư Vấn Shu Chư Ly